Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to Hold the Ball, HTB. Hope all is well. Thanks again for tuning in. I appreciate it very much. I hope you're well. It's a very beautiful Saturday here. I cannot complain. Look, I've got a few videos coming out. This is the first installment. You've probably seen the title. You know what this is about. It's about expansion, the NRL. And look, I'm actually a very keen expansionist myself. I love the idea, and I've loved the teams of the past who have played and, sort of made their brand, their name one way or another. And for me personally, I think it's the way forward. Now, this video here is going to be looking into sort of like an introduction about expansion, as well as giving you guys a bit of the meat in it. And then also talk about the teams that are going to be, or potentially being part of the NRL and why I think they should be. And then we're going to sort of conclude. So without further ado, their prop forwards just dropped the ball. I'll be back. All right, so look, NRL and expansion. Name me a more iconic duo. Probably not. I don't know. Where do you sort of sit with that? The NRL in its tenure have had different teams come and go. We've had the Gold Coast Chargers, we've had the Hunter Mariners, the Adelaide Rams, South Queensland Crushers, and Western Reds, just to name a few. There have been some other teams too who have played, but have also merged into one. For example, Magpies and the West Tigers, right? Balmain. So there's this very sort of, hot topic going on at the moment regarding the NRL and expansion. Obviously, we're hearing a lot of noise, particularly from the Queensland region regarding these teams. So what I want to do is sort of look into the teams from Queensland and then sort of look outside Queensland. So for example, we've got the New Zealand team, we've been hearing a bit of the South Australian as well as the Perth team, and I'll give you guys my thoughts as to why they should be. So yeah, let's get into it. Look, first things first, obviously, I'm pretty progressive when it comes to rugby league in general. I do like the idea of growth. I like the idea of, as I mentioned before, just that key sort of expansion, and I love it in that rugby league context, particularly NRL, because I think it is important. It's how you grow the game, right? It is so important to try and get people from different regions, particularly the smaller regions. And I get there are a lot of traditionalists out there who say, don't worry about it. If you can't grow it, don't. But this is the year. This is the way it is. Sport is progressing just like society, and I guess it doesn't matter where you sit. It is what it is, and I think NRL should definitely be on board, particularly those harder teams. So, for example, I mentioned the Perth team, the Western Reds. I mentioned the Adelaide Rams, and those two teams in particular, iconic, I think anyway. I don't have a bias, but I think they're iconic in the way that they were, from AFL Heartland, right? And then for them to come and thrive, in a small amount of time, you can argue and say that they weren't the best, and sure, but I mean, they came and they made their spot, and it sort of shows you that there's still that history there. And that's the important thing about rugby league, is that there's history involved, and we can't let them go. But look, I'll get to those teams later on. So the first things first, as mentioned, we've got a lot of noise, in Queensland regarding expansion in 2023, and here there's some of the teams that are going to be throwing their hat potentially. So we have the Redcliffe Dolphins, we have the Ipswich Jets, we have the Brisbane Tigers, who I think are feeding off to the Brisbane Firehawks, and then we have the Brisbane Bombers. And so you can see those four teams there. Now, for me personally, I don't know too much about the Queensland region in regards to perhaps their, Queensland Cup, right? Ipswich Jets, for example, or Redcliffe Dolphins. However, for me personally, I still think Queensland needs to be the next team to get a team, purely because obviously there's three Queensland teams. A fourth one will make it good and exciting for that region there, particularly the whole Queensland team thing. You've got the New South Wales teams, you've got the Queensland team, so on and so forth. But on top of that as well, again, rivalries, as I've talked about before many times, as well as the fact that these new stories, and hey, there's a lot of depth there. Now, as to which team gets picked, look, I'm not too fussed personally. I just think it's just really important to actually have a team based in Queensland. Next up, obviously you can look at Brisbane Bombers, you can look at the Brisbane Firehawks, two teams from Brisbane matching up against the Brisbane Broncos. Now, would I say that's the smartest move personally? I think so. In terms of investment, in terms of fans, sure. That probably wouldn't be too, I don't think it's unfair to say that, to sort of assume that. But obviously, if you're talking about heartland stuff, right, that gritty sort of grassroots that we love about rugby league, then you're obviously going to be looking at your Dolphins. You're going to be looking at your Ipswich Jets. So those teams. Now, as I stated before, I'm not too fussed about the whole, where it is situated, so long as it's in Queensland. But again, obviously, you've got to take sort of different things into perspective here. And my understanding is that the Firehawks and the Bombers are definitely making a bit of noise. And I think to a less extent as well, the Dolphins are. I think in terms of strategy, I think NRL will have to go with a Brisbane team. That's the reality. Now, obviously to the dismay of many people perhaps, but I mean, potentially speaking, financially, it's probably the better thing, right? You've already got Suncorp there. Imagine the rivalries there, especially when you share this two stadiums between the Broncos or Bombers or the Firehawks. Now, I'm not too fussed about the logos, the names. Not really. I just want to see the game grow. And I think it is important that in 2023 you do get another team there. And obviously, there'll be 17. But in saying that, that's fine. We can always make do of an uneven number for now, and then sort of get back into the swing of things afterwards. Obviously, there was 15 teams for quite a while until the Gold Coast Titans showed up. So, hey, it is what it is. But in terms of Queensland, I definitely think they should be next up. As to who they pick, again, don't know. But it's better. It's better to probably be in the Brisbane bracket, I think, anyway. But in saying that, Queensland, nonetheless. The next team we go into, say they do have a team in 2023. In next year or so, after that, I reckon another team would be a team from New Zealand. Now, let me explain myself. Obviously, there's been a bit of rumours, and we've all heard of the Wellington Orcas and their bid to come in 2006, and obviously didn't eventuate with the Titans coming in. However, in New Zealand, there is definitely a decent following of NRL, and obviously the Warriors have spotlighted most of the attention there. And look, this is not like a video critiquing the Warriors in regards to their results, as much as it is just explaining that rugby league in New Zealand can thrive, especially with another team. Now, obviously you've got different locations there. So one of them is Wellington. Another one is a South Island team. So, for example, say the Canterbury Orcas, or South Canterbury, like something like that. Or another one as well is the second Auckland team. So, look, Auckland being the most populated city in New Zealand, obviously very recognisable city on its own. You've got the Warriors there, So, obviously, if another team from Auckland came in, obviously it'll be called the Auckland Warriors, and then the Auckland, whatever they would be called, maybe the Auckland Whites. I don't know, something like that. It's interesting because then having that, potentially Mount Smart, potentially Eden Park. Again, there's just a whole heap of logistics, and again, it's just so important because rivalry, and obviously I'm sure there are people who maybe don't like the Warriors anymore, or don't follow league, that may follow league with this, in Auckland in particular. But again, just have to wait and see there. But the interesting parts though is the Wellington Orcas as well as the South Island team. Now, with the South Island team, obviously you've got Canterbury and the Dunedin, or even Invercargill. Now, people can sort of throw stones and say, well, look at the weather. I don't think the weather really is the issue here. If you get paid a lot of money to play rugby league, you'll be playing it no matter what. It is what it is. I don't think the weather should really deter people, particularly playing New Zealand, and getting paid a good sum of money. Another reason why I think having another team in the South Island would be good is the new fans, right? It's rugby league in the South Island is not that big. That's the reality. It's very small. However, there is something there, and sometimes it's better to do something with something than to do nothing with something. And on top of that as well, I think that's another key reason. And on top of that as well, I think, look, they've got some nice stadiums. They'll have a nice little backing. It's just a secluded place. That's why I think it'll be good anyway. But and just carrying on as well to the last sort of team, going back to Wellington Orcas. Well, Wellington, is probably arguably the second strongest place for rugby league in New Zealand. Obviously, that's a long drop second, by the way. It's not that close compared to Auckland. However, in saying that, hey, it's near the edge, and they've said that they want to, or they can, play in the South Island. So we'll just have to see what happens there. But those are sort of like the teams there regarding New Zealand. Again, I do think it is important to have New Zealand as an expansion team after Queensland. purely because, well, there's a growth here in New Zealand. If they're trying to tap into this market here, well, you've got to do it. And in saying that, NRL will have the backing too. So yeah, why not? The last, second to last sort of place I've also thought as well is Western Australia. So over here you've got the, well, I'm not sure, have you guys sort of heard of the West Coast Pirates? That's the team that was sort of, being thrown around to the NRL a few years ago. And I'm not sure what they're doing now, but I do believe that they're still around the place, Western Australia. So the rugby league stuff there is going strong, which is good to see. And I follow the Fremantle Roosters in their competition there. Another reason why I would personally have, Western Australia after Queensland and New Zealand is because they've got the government backing. So in Western Australia, the government actually is backing that team, happy to pay the money. They've got fans there, obviously. We've seen games down in Perth. It's crazy. People enjoy watching the game there. And to be fair with you, again, if there's a little spark, why not try and work with it, as opposed to just seeing it flaming in the side and not doing anything, which has been NRL sort of go. And I'll get to them soon. But yeah, I thought I'll throw it there. WA would be great. And the last one, South Australia. So you had the Adelaide Rams, as mentioned before, or a new team I've called, if they ever did come back, the Adelaide Stars. Throw it in there. What do you guys think? But I've got a soft spot for South Australia, being in South Australia myself. But yeah, look, in their rugby league competition here, hey, it goes as well as it can. It's pretty competitive, but in saying that, obviously, more backing, more help, more support will go a long way. But yeah, for me personally, again, another reason similar to WA, and I guess I should mention for both, they've both had their imprint in NRL. Now, you can look at both of them as failed experiments, or you can look at them as places to learn from, to grow from, to expand into again. And NRL, if they want to be daring, go down that way, expand on those teams. And as mentioned quickly with the Adelaide Rams, another reason why, look, rugby league in South Australia, no, it's not the best, no. But in saying that, there is general interest, and sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. The AFL have ventured into the heartlands of Western Sydney, and also the heartlands of of the Gold Coast, for example, the Brisbane Lions, the Sydney Swans, and I think it's time for the NRL to sort of do the same thing, right? Sure, they can't invest two teams like the AFL have in two, separate states, particularly rugby league states, but they can at least put one in each. Now, obviously, in saying that, if my sort of dream, my dream would be to have what's the word? My dream would be to have 20 NRL teams, and I guess that's when the conference comes in, or maybe that's just when you just play each other once. Anyway, I would probably do more descriptions of my conference soon, but probably not now anyway. But yeah, look, that is sort of my thoughts there regarding those teams. So if I had it my way, basically, just to sum it up, it would be Queensland first, New Zealand second, Western Australia third, and then South Australia last, and just leave it at that. Leave the New South Wales teams as they are. Leave you got ACT, you got Victoria, right? Leave them as they are. You just add SA, WA, second New Zealand team, Queensland team, and that's it. And again, the beauty about it is that you get more players coming out who can come in and play for those different teams. Again, just remember, you're not going to obviously get the best talent from WA just playing in that team. No, you're going to be getting players from New South Wales, from Queensland, from New Zealand, again, potentially Victoria, who knows, but you get my point. There's a chance there for different players to play. So that's why I think it's important. That's why I think the NRL need to look into it more deeply, but that's just my sort of thoughts on it. And now that I've done that, I'm just going to I'm going to sort of go into how it works. So the way this works, or it will work, is obviously is that thing that involves a lot of green. It's money. It's that investment from investors. It's again, just trying to prove why the game needs those teams, and it's a lot easier said than done. However, in the long run, if the NRL want to survive, if they want to make their mark, that's the reality. You've got to expand. AFL have expanded. They've done well. They've expanded to Queensland, New South Wales. The Greater Western Sydney, the Giants, they represent, Western Sydney, but they also play in Canberra. So again, more food for thought. And obviously they got WA, they got South Australia. It's about trying to, well, in my opinion anyway, monopolize the market, monopolize the states. And I get it, obviously, if you're going to play NRL in South Australia, for example, say it ain't probably going to be strong. Just like playing NRL, having an NRL team in Christchurch, it probably won't get strong first. But in saying that, you just got to grow. You got to start. It's got to start somewhere. Sort of like a seed. You plant, it grows, water it. It is what it is, and I think the NRL need to take that approach. First thing is, or the question is, why is it important? Now, the reason why it is important, as I mentioned before, it's important because rugby league, the NRL, needs to stamp its territory, needs to show that it's there, that it means business. We can all sort of sit here in our suits and sort of yell and scream at each other and sort of say it will or won't work, but the reality is there's competition here in the NRL. If it wants to if it wants to have the NRL, it says national, but it really isn't. If it really wants to be national, how about actually being national? And I think adding another South Australia team and a Western Australia team, to me personally, would make it national. Obviously adding that Queensland and New Zealand team as well. But yeah, like I said before, it's important because it's for the growth. It's important because fans. It's important because progression. It's important because it's a way forward. And yes, I probably ignored a lot of the logistics behind it, especially the financial stuff. However, in saying that, that's just something that I have to work out. It ain't for me. But yeah, give me your thoughts there and stuff like that. And yeah, I will definitely be commenting and reading. And what do you guys think overall? Should we expand? Should we not expand? You like to wear the flat cap. We'll see what we go there. But yeah, look, what are your thoughts there? But thanks again, guys, for tuning in. I appreciate it very much. Like I said, expansion is the way forward. Grow or be doomed, right? You got to copy your competition, so be it. But in terms for the game to grow good, and I would absolutely love to see a second team from New Zealand, a team from WA, and a team from SA. But yeah, guys, that has been me for now. Tell me what you guys think. Thanks for watching. If you have been watching it for this long, you're awesome as. But I'll take it easy, and to all those potential 4 future teams, hold the ball. See you guys next time.